Hello again and welcome to this week's Ref Show. Fair to say there's been a mixed bag. There have been some good performances to look back on and also some queries, question marks involving some of our best referees, proving perhaps that they're only human after all. Brian Dean joins Keith Hackett this week. We'll be asking the question, how many of those penalty claims in the big Arsenal-Chelsea game were actually correctly called by Michael Oliver? But first of all, something a bit different. The Premier League's coming along. But the depth, Keith, of ability in the select group and therefore in the Premier League has been under strain, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
This season. It needs more choice. You saw one of the fringe men, Robert Madley, Bobby, as he's known, Bobby Madley, at a big championship game, Sheffield Wednesday Leeds. You were encouraged to an extent, weren't you?
It's a game, where there's a lot going, even though it's end of season,
It's a big game in any circumstance.
Yeah, and he stamped his authority. So for me, he controlled the players really effectively. And I thought you could see the foundation of an ability to be able to perhaps get more Premier League games going forward if he himself makes some changes to his style of refereeing. One, he's not fit enough. I make that point. There's fitness in his work rate. He's got a big stride pattern, so it looks as though he's lumbering. But his proximity to play is not good enough. As a result, when he makes the critical decisions, and he gave Sheffield Wednesday a penalty kick. I believed it was a penalty. But he was some distance behind, and he was a bit late blowing. And therefore, he's got to speeden up his process of decision-making, use of the whistle, and he's got to increase and improve his mobility.
But the Premier League needs referees like Bobby Madley to come through and assert themselves, and you think he can?
Well, he's on the list. He's not had consistently the games. If he wants more games, he's then got to look towards improving.
Your old team, of course, Brian, Leeds United, I know you keep an eye on them. Events there have been chaotic. That's a conversation for another day. Let's bring you in, though, on Arsenal-Chelsea. This was Michael Oliver. I know that you watched that closely. There were 4 penalty calls in that. We'll get Keith's view in a moment. Your thoughts?
Well, I think the Stonewall penalty was the one with the goalkeeper.
It was clattered, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's...
This was Oscar, wasn't it?
Yeah. In anybody's language, that's a penalty. You look back at the Schumacher incident with Battiston in the World Cup. It was pretty similar to that.
Absolutely.
There was no penalty in that either. But that for me was a penalty. I think you'd be disappointed if that was your player going through and he got clattered back.
Did you feel that was the only clear one? Because there were 4. There were 3 claimed by Chelsea. There was 1 claimed by Arsenal. Do you thought that was the one clear one?
I think that was the absolute clear one. I think the other one on Oscar was... you could see perhaps got a little clip, but and then you look at the Fabregas one, which
caution for diving.
Yeah, absolutely, that was a blatant dive. So on the one hand, you're always testing the referees. You're not giving them a chance to actually do their job if you're trying to con them all the time. So they have to make a split-second decision. And I think overall, I think that was right as well. I think the
players are as much to blame if they're theatrical as Fabregas was.
Definitely, you can't have it both ways. And also the handball for
this was against Gary Cahill, an appeal.
That's right. I think that's a difficult one. Too much nowadays. Digressing a little bit now, but if you look at what happened up in Scotland, the guy's got to put his arm somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
He denied a goal, didn't he?
Denied a goal. He did.
Instinctive reaction, and that's also another story. Keith, though, by the letter of the law, and technically, Fabregas was fouled, was he not? I think that's your view.
This is, I think Brian's made the point. I think the first thing is that Oliver is an outstanding referee, but he's not the finished article. And I think if he believes that, then sadly, he'll not advance. As referees, we're always learning, we're always seeking to improve. So the one on the goalkeeper, or the goalkeeper taking out the forward, was easy. I couldn't see or understand how he could not give a penalty kick for that. Whether he was concerned about, is it a red card or not, is to some degree secondary. Get the first decision right.
Interested about your comment there. Do you think Oliver believes that he is the finished article then?
I think the danger is there are times when I looked at that performance with, a microscopic eye and experience that I have, where I think there's fringes of arrogance that I don't want to see in a referee. I don't want to see that.
Especially one at 30 in this case.
Yeah, look, let's not take away, he is a good referee. But to be a world-class, top-level referee, to meet the standards that Webb has set for English refereeing, he's got some distance to go. And that distance is, he's not going to make errors on the big shouts.
Don't referees need a touch of arrogance? Don't they need that?
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to get balance, because in some respects, if the players don't see that the referee has some kind of presence, they will take advantage.
Yeah.
So you have to have that balance where you can, and again, like Keith alluded to, it comes with experience, but you have to be able to control the situation. And he's getting big games.
He is. Some points anyway from Keith as well there for Michael Oliver to take on board for the future.
It's confidence, Alan. He's confident, which is good, but there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And we don't want that arrogance. What we want is him to actually go away, look at that particular performance with someone like Howard now, take him on board, Howard, and give him the advice and show, look, he's in a good position, you've got to have courage to make the decision.
Right, Andre Mariner, we move on to now. As I said, there were some good performances at the weekend, and some of them, I haven't really got any queries against them, which is full marks to the referees in those cases. In this one, Andre Mariner, praise on ref cam. This was Everton 3, Manchester United 0. Ref cam highlighted an early yellow card here for Fellaini, which kind of set the tone and imposed his authority. And Keith, and Louis van Gaal was even admitting afterwards that he later subbed Fellaini to avoid him getting sent off. So,
yeah, Fellaini is one of those players. I can remember when he first came to Everton, going across there at Farm Field and having discussions with David Moyes and Fellaini himself, because he gives away stupid yellows. And those stupid yellows that he gives for the tug, for the trip, or wanting to get involved, will then quickly jump to a red. And credit to the manager, Fellaini's going back to Everton. There's a bit of I'm returning. I want to show everybody that I'm a Man United player. Frustration in terms of the result. It's always a risk. Van Gaal should be praised for taking him off if he felt that his player had not got self-control.
And also in that game, Brian, when is a player interfering with play and when is he not interfering? This is Everton's third goal. It didn't matter in the context of the result, but was Lukaku active in an offside position? Thierry Henry and Graham Souness both said that he was. You've seen that, guys. What are your thoughts?
Spot on.
You think it was spot on?
The scenario is that that takes a lot of judgment from the assistant referee to hold the flag down and not go for the easy call.
Yeah.
So
they got it right.
He's got to wait and see. I mean, the law's a bit of an ass, isn't it? Let's face it, we come from a tradition where there's a lot of people in football now, those that are players, those people that actually count, Alan, who we pay to see, don't fully understand the law. And with that, I hear and listen to arguments amongst referees who don't fully understand the law. Yeah. So there you've got a problem.
It's wrong, Brian, if we have to have this conversation, isn't it? Almost on a weekly basis.
I mean, it is a grey area, but I would say, from Valencia's point of view, he's got to react better than that, because Morales has come from behind him. Yeah. So as soon as he's seen that players continued...
Let's not blame the officials for that.
Let's try to...
Good point. Anthony Taylor, some good performance. Let's move on to these before we continue on other debatables. Burnley 0, Leicester 1. It's a huge game at the bottom. Keith, Anthony, he looks like a greyhound at times.
Well, we've been critical, haven't we, of a number of referees, and even Anthony, we criticised early on about his lack of pace and movement and allowing the game to drift away from him. Great credit to him. Important game, really vital game at the bottom of the table. Good appointment that he's put on the match. That might be Howard's influence coming through. And then he delivers. And he delivers with pace. speed. I just looked there and looked at that game and thought, wow, well done, Anthony.
And Brian, players are going to respect a referee who keeps appearing alongside them or in close proximity when something happens, aren't they?
Keith said it a couple of times now. There's nothing worse than looking at a referee and he's got a belly, or it's that bad, because you instantly lose respect. You want to see, you look at Howard Webb, you look at Mark Clattenburg. These guys look the part, and you want to, as a player on the pitch, you want to look up to the official, and I think that's what we had with Howard Webb. He was, he's a big presence. Uriah Rennie was the same.
Correct, absolutely.
All right, so well done, Anthony Taylor, listening and learning, watching and learning, or whatever. Mike Jones, now, look, you've given him a fair bit of stick. It's only right that we acknowledge, I think, that QPR 0, West Ham 0 was well handled. It was a correct penalty award to QPR. Yeah. It's not Mike Jones's fault that they missed it. Disallowed a Richard Dunn goal for a push. Seemed to get everything right there.
Yeah, I think he had one of those rare occasions, a good game. I still don't believe that he's quite good enough for the Premier League, because, the thing at the top level is you've got to be consistent. You can't be involved in a game and influence the outcome of the game through bad decision making. So credit to him, he's had a good game. It's getting consistency from here that counts. He's a bit late in the season to put in a good performance.
Moving on to Neil Swarbrick, who I think by common consent, was unblemished in Newcastle 2, Swansea 3.
Pretty consistent, Alan, over recent weeks, Neil Swarbrick. I think that he's got his act together and he's quietly in the scenes, and I think the appointments he's getting through them without the controversy now. He's dropped that bit. So let's hope that he's found form and encouragement and his confidence is growing.
Good signs. Mike Dean has had a good season, Manchester City 3, Aston Villa 2, but unusually clear Manchester City penalty denied. Mark Halsey said he was guilty of ball watching on that Mike Dean, and then a later incident as well in that game.
Yeah.
Joe Hart. And
I think, I agree with Mark. I think he was ball watching. Then we had that offside call. Yeah. Now the linesman's got it wrong. Now,
this is Benteke at the end going
absolutely, through. He's got it wrong, and he shouldn't make that error. Yeah. And by making that error, the player's actually got a clear run on goal. The flag's a bit late. He's gone on, and Hart's clattered him. It'd been an interesting outcome had the flag not gone up.
Yeah, that changed the whole outcome of that game.
Yeah.
That could have changed that result completely. This is the assistant referee's call, so it's not Mike Dean's fault directly on.
But we've made that comment this season on a number of occasions. Assistant referees' performances across the board have not been as good as in the past.
Right. Stoke 2, Sunderland 1. Martin Atkinson had a good game. I think most people agreed. Southampton 2, Spurs 2. Jonathan Moss. Jonathan Moss was praised on RefCam here for the assistants, including Stuart Burt. There was also a question about the mobility of John Moss, which has been raised on RefCam before. Is the FA Cup final referee as well, Keith?
Well, we compliment him on that. The FA Cup normally goes to either the most outstanding referee or the one that's nearing retirement in the past. It's not John Moss's problem.
No, it's not his fault.
But it could be. He's really got to get his act together a bit in terms of the cup final, because he can't deliver the performances that he's been delivering. He is short of that mobility that's required. And there were times at the weekend when he's 20 metres, 30 metres back, or he's slow in recognising the build-up in play. So he's not anticipating well.
Nevertheless, we wish him well for the FA Cup final, John Moss, and hope it goes well for him, Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely, and his colleagues. And of course, Craig Pawson, locally, and Darren England from Barnsley. So yeah, we want it to go well for our guys.
Good luck, guys. Mark Clattenburg finally on the Ref Show this week. This is Crystal Palace 0, Hull 2. Huge game at the bottom of the table. Unusual to have any question marks against him. There were two, but I think on both occasions he was probably right, or to be exonerated. There was a handball, wasn't there, in the build-up to Ndoye's opener for Hull?
Yeah, it was an outstretched hand, wasn't there? Did the ball hit the hand, or did the hand go to the ball?
Looked a handball, Brian.
It looked hand, but it had been harsh. And I think that we had to look about 5 replays to determine whether it was.
Yeah, it needed loads of replays and slow motion, didn't it? And he disallowed a Palace goal for pushing. However slight that pushing, replays appear to support that decision from Mark Clattenburg.
Absolutely.
Can I just make one final point on that? There were no yellow cards at all in that game, Keith. Across the board, in 10 Premier League games, there were only 29. So they're actually just below that magic average figure of 3 per game.
Yeah, great. I mean, at the end of the day, players are responding positively. The referees are allowing the game to breathe, which is what you want, and not to be hand in pocket, ready to pounce with a yellow. So I think
Good from the players' point of view.
Definitely.
And better for the spectacle.
Yeah, but look, I mean, the more involved the referee is, then the worse the game is, because it's a stop-start business. But players want the game to flow.
Some well dones this week. And to you, Brian, good to have you in the studio with Keith Hackett. And thank you for your company. And we'll see you again for another Ref Show next week, I do hope. See you then. Bye.